You're live.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to this Grants Advisory Committee meeting on the 24th of August 2023. My name is Councillor Joe Hales. I'm the chair of this committee. So we're going to go through the agenda as normal. Aaron, I've got any apologies.
Thank you, Chair. No apologies for absence for today's meeting.
Thank you.
John's not here.
John's on holiday, but he doesn't. But any declarations of interest? Agenda item number 2. I have. I'm a trustee of Melbourne Mobile Warden Scheme, so on agenda item number 6, following Jessica Selleck's presentation to us, I'll be leaving the room and Councillor Edington will take over that agenda item for me. Thanks. And Sue's just reminded me I haven't got any minutes from last meeting, but I would probably say that Lawrence's situation is that's just catching up with yourself. Okay, so thank you very much. Brilliant. No problem. Right. Okay. Agenda item number 4. So I'm going to go over to Ben Truitt and his colleague Anna. Yeah. Okay. Which is the Leisure Centre grants. So that's page 5 to 14. Over to you, Ben. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, so the physical activity grants for dual-use leisure centres, this was for the dual-use leisure centres to apply for up to £1,000 of funding. This was to support the launch or relaunch of classes. That could be through sort of training of staff or capital costs relating to sort of delivery of those activity classes. This sort of came about through sort of post-pandemic with sort of membership numbers reducing in the hope that through relaunching or launching these activity classes, it will help to sort of definitely maintain the sort of membership classes, but in particular look to sort of grow those memberships. The grant received 5 applications and the office's suggestions have been provided. It's also been suggested as well and agreed that any of the leftover funding could be used to support one of the applications in the following grant in the next agenda. But I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any questions.
Thanks, Ben. I'm sure there'll be a few. Stand by. Councillor Edington.
I've got there. I wondered what the take-up was of using these facilities, whether some of this grant could be allocated to increase publicity and encourage more take-up.
Do you mean the sort of leftover amount of funding, or?
No, I mean the number of people who make use of the multi gyms that we are actually funding. I mean, it says that there's been a drop-off since COVID, and it seems to me that we need to be putting more effort into getting people back to making use of the facilities that we support and fund.
Yeah, so I think as part of this sort of application, that there's a sort of drive to want to promote these classes and sort of promote the different things that are being offered at the leisure centre, and through that we would then hope that would improve those sort of memberships and sort of people retaining those memberships. Obviously, with more on offer and more sort of promotion of those classes, there's more exposure to that. So that's part of what we've also what the officers have looked at in those applications.
Any other colleagues got any questions? This is quite a new one for us, I think, isn't it? I mean, we've had it come in the dark and distant, but it's a very recent back to this committee sort of thing. So it'd be quite interesting, obviously, Ben being an Anna being new to the team, I think, aren't you? New officers, yeah? Yeah, super. Right, so it's kind of, might be an idea if we can quiz them, make them feel really welcome. It looks like you got off scot-free here, so to speak, excuse the pun. Okay, that's, unless Councillor Williams has got any comments. John, you there?
Yeah, sorry, I missed Ben's presentation because I was waiting to be let into the meeting. So I don't know what Ben said, but I'm quite happy with this recommendation, with this paper. I take on board what Sue has said, but I mean, obviously that will be used by those who receive the grants to, I'm sure, promote their activities to increase the numbers. But it is, I'm not sure. Anecdotally, there seems to be some evidence now that people are starting to come back into, to come back to active activities. Obviously, the cost of living crisis isn't helping, but from what I'm hearing, that people are starting to return to gyms, etc. But I'm quite happy with this paper, and I don't believe any members have raised objections to this. So thanks very much, and I'm quite happy to proceed with it.
Thank you, John. Councillor Manley.
Yeah, I support this. Maybe we should just ask that one of our officers, Ben, perhaps just has a look at numbers in, say, 6 months' time, and just come back and informally report to us, and we can we can make sure that Sue's point is taken on board.
Councillor Hinton.
Can I just ask, only 5 applications were received. They can only ask for £1,000, and yet we have a fund which is £9,000. Were we expecting more applications, or why weren't we offering £1,500 or even £2,000 if we knew there was, they couldn't actually fill the fund that was available?
I think we were expecting maybe more applications. We did sort of spread the word about the applications, about the grant and applying. So it was something that we were looking at doing, and I think as it was set as £1,000 for maximum application, I don't think we thought it was fair to change it sort of midway through. So that was probably the reason for that. But yes, I think we were probably expecting a few more, and yeah, I hope that answers that question.
Thanks, Ben. I'm just going to say something to John. John, I know you were trying to be let in, and Ben's presentation was superb, succinct, just like I asked him to. So it was absolutely brilliant. So I'd just like to say thank you to Ben, especially as this, have we just broken you, so to speak, for a choice of words. I think this was his first time.
Yeah.
So sorry if we've made you feel uncomfortable, but that's just life, I'm afraid. But anyway, thank you very much for what you've done and what you've presented this morning. Question, if I may, just come to me as Sue was asking hers. There used to be a process where GPs could refer people on for exercise and what have you. Is this the same process, or is this the same scheme, so to speak? Or is that something that could be advertised within GPs that perhaps, you might need to go and have a bit more exercise? There is some funding to help this, whatever, at your local unit, as the ones listed here.
So I think if I've understood what you're talking about, that's the exercise referral programme. So there's actually a separate pot of funding for that and support for that. So this funding doesn't include that. But it wouldn't be harmful to suggest to GPs about the activity classes anyway, to those patients that may want that support and feel they want to improve those activity levels. But no, this grant wasn't including any costs relating to exercise referral because there's a separate pot of funding for that.
I wonder, being cheeky, is if there's any way that we as a council could perhaps inform the GPs in these areas that this process is available, and that as in conversation with their patients, it might be something I'd like to bring up. It's not funded, it's not for them, but it is a conversation piece. Councillor Hanley.
Yeah, that's a good point, Chair. As I said earlier, our CEO, Liz Watts, is going to be speaking to senior people at the county and within the NHS ICS about how what South Cams does fits in with the bigger picture. And I would ask perhaps Ben if he would add this to the list of things that Liz refers to. Mobile wardens is another one. Day centres, daycare centres is another. Because actually the amount of referral from GPs is woefully low, much lower than it is. I know they're busy people, but really what we need is someone at a very high level saying, don't forget these services exist, use them. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Okay, so if there's no further questions from other colleagues on the committee, then we'll go back to page 3, which is the recommendations. It's recommended that the Grants Advisory Committee considers all the applications for funding that are set out in Appendix A to this report and makes a recommendation to the lead cabinet member. Now, we've all read it, and Ben has explained it very succinctly what's what, so I'm just going to take this as a general approval of the entire paper. So, is that agreed by all of us?
Yeah.
That's agreed then. Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you, Anna, for coming along. That's lovely. See you next time for another grilling. Okay, on the Grants Advisory Committee.
You've got one more item, Chair.
All right, I know. I'm just doing that one. See, we're working to the next turn around. This is a Ben and Emma show today, 2 each. Right, okay. Ben, agenda item number 5, please.
Yeah, sure. So this one is a grant supporting activity classes for people with long-term health conditions. So it's made available for voluntary groups, community groups, leisure centres, or sort of individual instructors to apply for up to £2,000. And this is to support participants that are living with a chronic long-term health condition. So this could be dementia, Parkinson's, diabetes, as an example. We received 13 applications, and 10 applications we considered suitable. As mentioned previously, one of the applications, the suggestion was that we didn't fully award the full amount of funding, but hoping that we can do with some of the leftover funding from the previous agenda item. But yes, hopefully this has been read by the members and are in agreement with this, with the suggestions that have been provided as well.
Thank you, Ben. Colleagues, questions?
I think a lot of the comments that we made earlier apply to this as well.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
You got anything to ask Ben? We can't let him off lightly. We gave him a grilling on the first one. We've got to keep it up now. Oh,
all right,
hang on, Ben. Hang on. Ben's coming back. He's got more to add.
Apologies, I just want to add something. There is, apologies, this is a mistake by me. So on the, where it kind of goes through the different applications and there's sort of colour coding, by accident, one of them are green, but it actually should be red, and that's reference QMPKVZCX. So apologies if there's any confusion there. The recommendation is no funding awarded, but by accident, I colour-coded it green. So apologies about that.
Thanks, Ben. Okay. I mean, we can see, all of us, and we've been through this in our own time, obviously, the areas and the organisations that have been awarded or have asked them if they've been awarded, and those that Ben has highlighted that haven't. So there are some headline acts: Parkinson's, cardiac, obviously the cancer stuff, dementia. I think dementia was mentioned on the other page. Yeah. I noticed that County Council applied. I am, what's the best way of describing my feeling, Councillor Hanley? Would that be speechless, perhaps? I have no idea why County Council applied to a colleague authority. Anyway, I'm glad to see it's in red. So that's that. So you had a question?
Well, I found it quite difficult sometimes to identify where these places were, like Imagination Dance CIC. Who are they? Where are they? What do they do? And as you said, the County Council, it's really Forever Active. Who are they? I feel slightly uncomfortable about agreeing to provide money if I haven't got some sort of tangible idea of where I might walk through the door and find these people, providing whatever it is we've funded for them to provide. It's the reassurance that I need that it isn't just going into somebody's pocket.
Ben, have you got that information to hand now?
Yeah, can I offer hopefully some reassurance with that? So, so Imagination Dance, I believe you asked the question about, that's a class in Gamlingay, and this is, the name of the class is Movement for Memory class. Essentially, it's like a seated activity class, sort of doing very low impact movements, which just helps to sort of develop brain activities and that feeling of movement and the enjoyment from that. So that's relating to that question there. I believe you asked the question about Forever Active. So this is an organisation that delivers strength and balance classes mainly across South Cambridgeshire, and also have some in Cambridge City as well. So again, this application was relating to to enhance and continue their strength and balance classes across those different areas. So they have ones in Sawston from memory, and I'm happy to look up where the other ones are. I can't remember off the top of my head where all of them are, but I can get back to you. I think you also asked the question about the Cambridgeshire County Council, is that correct? I think there was a slight misunderstanding. It was a member from County Council that was wanting to deliver a Love to Move session, and then so it wasn't clear at first that this person was from County Council from the application, and then through understanding that and having some conversations, that was realised, so the officers suggested their suggestions.
Thanks, Ben. Ben, could I ask, I think probably we've got our answers.
Oh, yeah.
Would it be okay to ask you, this spreadsheet that you've done this here is superb, yeah? But it might be perhaps handy for the future, and if you get a moment, perhaps could do this one as well. Add another column and just go like area of operation, something like that, because that would then perhaps give us just a little bit more detail. If that's okay with you, if you can fit it in there.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
thank you ever so much. And again, thank you very much for the presentation. That was great. Okay, so if we go back to, I'm going to go first to John, first of all. John, do you have any comments on this before we go to recommendation?
No, I'm happy with it. I take on board what you said about knowing where the activities are taking place, and I'm sure Ben will make sure that in future we do that. But I'm quite happy with the report.
Councillor Hanley.
Just a question. Those organisations that are not successful, presumably we go back and explain why. I mean, in some cases, it seems to me that they've failed to explain sufficiently what they're going to be doing with the funding. which is a good reason not to give them the money, but it would be fair to say to them, to explain to them why, so that they get it right next time.
Ben?
Yeah, the plan was to provide an update to all the applicants, whether they're successful or not successful, and give a bit of a description of why or why not in terms of their application. So that was the plan. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, colleagues. Oh, sorry. Councillor Haraj.
Just wanted to know, somebody like Competent Sports Centre who's been rejected, are they able to reapply, modifying their application?
So now that the application's closed, I would say no, but obviously if it was opened up again, then yes, and would make that, again, clear in the rejection notice to them, so and how they can maybe improve that. However, I would say the office's suggestions from the application was what they were applying for was related to the Active and Healthy for Life scheme, so similar to the exercise referral, or related, sorry, to the exercise referral. So again, there is funding separate that they will get for what they were applying for. So actually, unless their application was different to that, then I would probably advise them not to apply again through this.
I think this is a common theme, isn't it? We've had this with Community Chest and the zero carbon and what have you. People apply to the wrong fund and what have you. Councillor Sanford.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, it looks like all the available funding has been allocated to the successful applicants. Presumably that means that even if they come back now, there'll be nothing available till 2024.
I believe that's the case. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions from colleagues?
Oh, can I come in here?
Yep. Go ahead, John. Go ahead, John. You're on mute, mate.
Okay, sorry about that. I think as Ben mentioned earlier in his report, that we do have some money now left over from the previous fund. So there is an opportunity of instead of returning that to general fund, using some of that money. So, you know, I think in Combatant's case, probably it wouldn't be worth them reapplying. I'm not so sure about some of the others, but it could well be that we could, I think we could accommodate a reapplication within the amount we've saved from the previous from the previous scheme.
Thanks, John. Would it be okay that if you directly contacted Ben and what have you, if there's any of that money available, or if you know about that, and then that can come back to us with the applications? And Ben's looking to talk, so I'll get Ben.
Yeah, so I just a bit of clarity as well, just following Councillor Peters' question. There was the question about funding. If agreed, I guess technically that total will go over the 13,000 if some of that money from the previous grant is given to the Run for Health, sorry, to give them the full amount, just to kind of make that clear as well.
Right, so there's a shortfall in the Run for Health of what, 500 quid, isn't it?
It's around 300 pound.
So that would come out of the extra money that John talked about just now.
Okay.
And then if anything's left from that, then that could be potentially. So if it's okay with you, John, if you have a thought process there, would that be comfortable in talking to Ben, and then Ben can bring this back to us if there's any extra bits and pieces to be discussed? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that could be a way forward. although I hate spending money, I also hate, you know, giving money back that we don't spend. So yeah, we can have a look at that, I think.
I'd like to take issue with your don't like spending comment, actually, because this committee have always found that you've been monumentally generous, and we hope in the future you continue to be that way with us. Okay, right. Colleagues, we go to the recommendation, which is on page 13, which, as is read, is recommended the committee, consider all the application and funding in Appendix A and make the report recommendation to the Cabinet for Finance. Are we in agreement with that?
Yes.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Ben, Anna, that's you done. You can run away now and have a lie down, have a cup of strong coffee. Thank you very much indeed for presenting to us. That's brilliant. Thank you. Hope to see you again soon for another grilling.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on. This is agenda item number 6. This is going to go over to Emma Dyer, our officer here. But as I said earlier, I'm going to leave prior to this being discussed. So Jessica, who's online, Jessica said it from Rose Regeneration, thank you very much. If you'd be so kind as to give us a quick briefing of what you've been doing and what have you, that obviously this might help colleagues with their decisions later on with this agenda item. Thank you. Over to you, Jessica.
Thank you very much to you and the committee for inviting me to join you this morning, and to Emma, who I know has been keeping you all updated on what we've been up to at Rose Regeneration since May. And I have to say, I'm following Ben, so I need to be really succinct, don't I? So I'll try and be succinct as possible, because I know you've got lots of other agenda items. So what we've really been doing over a 2 or 3 month period is reviewing all the data and documents and information that you as the local authority hold about mobile ward and community care schemes. We've interviewed the organisations running schemes and the wardens working for them, and we've also looked at other information that's collected at an individual scheme level around financial information or monitoring data, case studies, those kinds of things. We came along to a workshop that you held for kind of current schemes back in June, and we've done a review of policy documents relating to other public bodies that have a footprint or an interest in delivering services in South Cambridgeshire. And I think it's really important at the outset to say not only did we have a short window to collect and analyse the data about the schemes, but that the information we requested was more extensive and detailed than the schemes currently submit to you in the annual monitoring returns that they make to you. Therefore, I would say that much of the information we ask them, it's intuitively known, but it's not routinely necessarily collected or collated within every scheme. And I think we're really grateful to the organisations running the schemes and the wardens working for them for supplying us with as much information as they could. I also think it's important to recognise that every scheme is different and it responds to the needs of the residents and the locality in which it's based. So what the report that Emma's been outlining to you does is it provides a bit of a baseline and an evidence base of what's currently known about mobile ward and community care schemes and what they deliver, and some of the benefits that accrue to kind of individuals, the local community, to you as a local authority and other kind of public and statutory bodies. So the full report sets out why the schemes are needed and what they've been set up to do. It provides a snapshot of all the schemes and the information that they currently collect in terms of their staffing, how they market and promote themselves, how many clients they have, where their funding comes from. It also contains some information around where they've applied for other money and which of those bids have been successful and what are they being, what's that match funding for. We've also tried to get to the bottom of what difference they're making in terms of the broader social value and benefits they're delivering to you as a local authority and other service providers. And we've also collated some learning and practice across them all to think about, so what are the key ingredients of success for schemes and why are some of them struggling? What does that mean for this scheme going forward? So if I very, very quickly take you through some of the key findings. So there are currently 19 schemes operating, covering 50 parishes across the district. 13 of those are run by Age UK, Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, and 6 are independently run. So 5 have been established by local charities, 1 by a parish council, and they're all kind of managed by a local board or committee of kind of voluntary trustees, and all of them have a warden. Some have more than one warden who's employed on a part-time basis or a self-employed basis. They all offer a core set of services, and the full report lists those. Of those services, we ask schemes, so which are the most popular? Which ones do your clients routinely access? And I'm sure none of you will be surprised to hear it's around befriending and friendship, small items of shopping, prescription collection, and kind of reading and sorting through post. It's really interesting, I think, about thinking about what the kind of the USP is for these schemes, and how are they different in terms of that service offer from other providers and other initiatives taking place in that locality. And I would say there are kind of 5 or 6 things that are really key. I think the first thing is that all the schemes take a person-centred approach. So the wardens really focus on the elements of support that matter most to the clients, and they take time to build up that trust and rapport with clients to really get to understand what's important to them without making any assumptions. I think the other thing that sets them apart is they're all place-based and hyper-local. So the organisations running them and the wardens working for them, they tend to all live in and work and they're in that geography, so they're not geographically kind of distant or removed. The other thing the wardens are very good at is joining up and linking service users or clients to other services. And again, I think that's really important. I think sometimes the wardens are holding the ring in terms of ensuring that clients can access those other services. The other thing they do is they provide regular contact, which is normally, it can be on the telephone, it can be face-to-face, it's weekly, it's normally the same person. So again, because the client's speaking to the same person or seeing the same person, they spot changes in their kind of health and well-being, and whether they're deteriorating or struggling in some way in life. I think the other thing that's important is that these schemes are not time limited, and they offer ongoing and continuous support, and it's quite unusual for a client who joins a scheme to leave unless very sadly they pass away. And I think it's really been interesting for me to see through the evaluation how it's not just about the work the warden does with the client, but also how it very much provides reassurance to their family members and their neighbours and friends and loved ones as well. And I do think, you know, for clients whose family members are some distance away, those wardens really can be the kind of the last line of human contact. So I think our report really clearly contains lots of narratives about the impact and the difference that mobile warden schemes make to those clients, and how much time those kind of wardens spend with them, and what their family members think about the support their loved ones receiving. We have looked at some outcomes, some project outcomes, and we've done some social return on investment analysis of those using an accredited measurement tool called the Social Value Engine. Again, this shows that the schemes are currently delivering £2.15 of social value for every £1 invested. In terms of government guidance, anything over 2 is good, therefore they're delivering some good social value. But linked to my earlier point, I think they deliver more than that. It's just we're not routinely collecting some of this information. There were also instances of how these schemes benefit adult social care and NHS services through things like fewer hospital admissions, helping with the hospital discharge process, delaying entry into adult social care, a reduction in kind of missed appointments. So we've got some narrative around that. I think all the schemes are incredibly grateful of the funding that they receive from you as a local authority, but to deliver the schemes, they need to secure match funding, and that really is where they're on this funding treadmill of having to identify, apply and secure funding. And again, many of these schemes are overseen by trustees, by voluntary board members who are maybe combining that with the full-time day job. So the money to fund the schemes, it's coming very kindly from the South Cambridgeshire District Council funds, from their client fees. Some of them get funding from parish councils, but not all. Some get money from Cambridgeshire Council, County Council, again, not all. Some have been really successful at raising funds from local trusts, charities and foundations, and some do some work around public donations. But yeah, some schemes are really struggling because they're on that funding treadmill, and some schemes are undersubscribed and they are really struggling to recruit clients, and are looking at their kind of marketing and promotion around all of that. So the full report contains lots more information about the schemes, but in terms of kind of 4 big takeaways of things that I'm really interested in going forward, I think it would be really interesting if all the schemes could maybe work more collectively to build an evidence base to better understand the impact and outcomes that they're having. I think it would be really good if we could revisit some of the analysis in this report to quantify the benefits that the schemes are delivering for kind of public and statutory bodies. I think the third thing is around understanding, and I mean truly, really understanding how much it costs to run a scheme and how they can work towards becoming more financially viable, particularly through an understanding of their unit costs. And I know one of the schemes does understand its unit cost, but the others, that's not part of their day-to-day operational thinking. And finally, thinking about, so what are the ongoing support needs of existing schemes, and how can we scope out how more schemes can be established across South Cambridgeshire, including through kind of peer-to-peer support and learning. And my final thing before I'm quiet, everybody, is if you look at the population projections for your district, and particularly the number of people over 75 years of age, which is when care needs become more pronounced, actually you've got a real net increase coming of 7,184 people by 2043. So I think it demonstrates not only have you got a cohort of clients at the moment, but you're going to have a cohort of clients going forward as well. But I'll let Emma come in to see if she's got anything to add.
I'd just like to say thank you, Jessica. I mean, just so we're all on the same page, I was part of the conversation with Jessica, and when she was quizzing the Melbourne Mobile Warden Scheme, and it was thorough, I think is the fairest way to say. I felt exhausted. I felt like Ben did. Just so I can vouch for the fact that we have been given just about brief in there is perfectly succinct. So over to you, Emma.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jessica. Just so you know, that report will be shared soon. We're just finalising the last little bits of it, so you will get to see that. So on to my paper. Yes.
Before you go,
yep.
So thank you, Jessica, for that. It was absolutely brilliant. I don't know if I said that at the start of my little piece there, but I'm going to say it again. Thank you very much for the briefing you've just given us, and we look forward to reading your report when Emma does. So if you're going to start this thing now, I'm going to slope off. Thanks. Over to you, Sue. Thanks.
Can I just say thank you, Jessica, as well? I've just used the Community Warden Service, I have to say, in my patch, because I've had a hip replacement and they were brilliant. But as an old ward sister at one time in my life, the most important thing that I ever did was to go round and speak to my patients every morning and look at them and think, you're not as well as you were yesterday. I think we'd better do something about you. Or, oh yes, you're coming along nicely. How you quantify that, which is the most important thing that I think community wardens do, is so difficult. And to get it across to people who don't understand is sometimes impossible. But thank you very much. Oh, I'm supposed to be speaking, aren't I? Right. Do you want to say anything else, Emma?
Yes, please. Shall I just go on to my report that I'm going to talk about as well? Thank you. So this is the Mobile Warden Scheme Grant Review 2024 to 28. As you'll know, the schemes are administered on a 3-year cycle, and the current cycle runs from April 2021 to March 2024. And the purpose of this paper is to agree the Council's approach to supporting the schemes in our district from the period of 2024 to 2028. And obviously Jessica's just given her fantastic summary of the work that Rose Regeneration is doing. Just before I go on, I just want to say that the finances in this proposal have already been discussed with the Council's Chief Finance Officer and the Lead Cabinet Member for Resources, and they are subject to the approval of the Council's budget in February 2024. The paper's also been circulated to members of Cabinet in case they had any comments. And I'll just go straight into the recommendations, because I know that Jessica's given a fantastic overview of the schemes already. So the first recommendation is that the Council provides £100,000 for 1 year, and this is an extension in the funding for 2024 to 2025, and that's to those schemes in the district that already receive our funding. So this is an increase on the 71,708 that was given this year. And this increase is because we believe that obviously things like the inflation rates over the last 5 years, we've incorporated that into this figure. A contingency fund for any new schemes expressing an interest in setting up. Also funds for schemes to build their capacity and increase membership, and this is over and above other funding sources, including the Care Together funding that we talked about last month. Hopefully they would have achieved those already, but this is in addition to that. So the second recommendation is that we offer a 3-year grant scheme from April 2025 to March 28, and this will include adapted criteria and annual report at the end of each year. And the last recommendation is that before a decision is made on the funding allocation for the next 3-year cycle, we carry out further development work to support the sustainability of the schemes. And this would include an in-depth review of the service delivery, any barriers to promotion and expansion, and exploring a collaborative approach between public sector funders. I just wanted to draw your attention also to an amendment to Appendix A on page 33, and that's for the Milton scheme, which is a parish council-run scheme. You'll notice the end-of-year balance is not, well, it's stated as £222,917. This is actually minus £8,517.58, and this discrepancy occurred as the initial figures we received for the with the parish council and not the scheme that's run by the parish council. So just be aware of that. Thank you. I will just highlight a few key points in the paper as well. As you know, there's the predicted high growth in the over 65-year-old population over the next 20 years. By 2040, nearly 1 in 5 people will be living with a major health condition, such as dementia or cancer, and this is up from 1 in 6 in 2019. And this population shift would, as you can imagine, have a major impact on the NHS. Almost all schemes have felt an impact on client numbers following COVID, and also the cost of living crisis. And the core budgets for the schemes, as you'll be aware, has remained static for many years, except for annual inflationary uplifts. And the 1-year extension in funding would provide the necessary time to develop a closer partnership with Cambridgeshire County Council, the integrated care system, parish councils, etc., to complete a more in-depth review of barriers to service delivery and funding options. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you. Over to you, Bill.
Well, thank you very much for a fantastic report, Emma. It's very clear. I'm very, very supportive, and obviously it's all very, very, very dependent on John Williams and co. I think what you've presented to us is a good way forward, because we are talking with the ICS, the NHS, the County Council, in how we can work more closely to deliver a holistic package of care. Because as the Rose Regeneration report I'm sure will show, you know, what we do, what this district council does, has a significant benefit to the wider care system, and we need to make that fact very, very clear. And as I said earlier, but I'll say again, our CEO, Liz Watts, has agreed to take this message at the most senior level and to try and improve collaboration, because the ICS is supposed to be all working together, going to pull everything together. Now, I know it's relatively early days, particularly for something as big as that, but so far the evidence isn't obvious to me. So let's hope that Liz can have some positive effect in that respect, and that we can have a package that works across the piece and works in a very joined up way with what the county council and the NHS are doing. Care in our country is not good, is it? And really does need to be looked at very carefully. Just thank you very much, Emma, and your team for an excellent report, and I'm fully supportive of it.
Thank you, Bill. Peter?
Thank you, Sue. If I say the mobile warden scheme is a well-kept secret, that's probably untrue, but I was certainly unaware of it until the last few months. It obviously does really good work for nearly 300 clients. And as Jessica pointed out, the number of clients is probably going to increase for demographic reasons. So on principle, I'm very supportive of the proposals. Certainly, I think moving to a 3-year funding cycle is only fair. How can you plan staffing and resources for a fairly complex scheme on a 1-year rolling basis? So definitely that side I would support. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Sunita?
I think this is a wonderful scheme. From what I've heard from everyone, it's an excellent thing, especially when there's so many villages involved, where people feeling isolated and just need that little bit of top up when they need it. I totally, fully support this. Money well spent.
I think we have a committee that is very much on side and is very enthusiastic. I think the one thing that I think we sometimes don't realise is that South Cambs District Council have no statutory responsibility to do this. We do it because we care for our residents, and this is a real winner for our residents, and I think I fully support what's being proposed, and thank the administration for finding this extra resource to support the service, which is currently going through quite a difficult time. So are we all in agreement? All 3 of the recommendations? Yep. Okay.
Stu, before you move on, can I just add my thanks to Jessica and Emma for the work they've put into this, and obviously going forward we will need more work to be done, and I hope, as Bill has said, that we can take the care providers with us, the people who do have the statutory responsibility to do this, that they appreciate what we do and understand that we can be a significant player in this. So I do hope, and I am optimistic, that over the next year we will be able to come back, for in 2024, and say, that we now have a workable scheme that we can roll out across the district. So anyway, once again, thank you very much for the work that's been done so far.
Thank you. I can make faces at him. Thank you, John. I hand back to Councillor Hales.
Thank you. So, Okay. Agenda item number 7 then, that's over to you again, Emma. Thank you.
We should have Bill for a minute.
Yeah. Do we want to take two seconds, let Bill come back?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we've received 9 applications this month, which includes 1 biodiversity and 1 cost of living application. Total amount requested is £14,145.71. Straight on to page 39, we have Swavesey Spartans Football Club. They have girls and boys teams from under 6 through to under 18, and they've recently formed both ladies and walking football teams. And a robust 6-seater substitutes bench and shelter for the 3G pitch at Swavesey Village College is now required. Total project costs are around £2,699.99, and £2,000 has been requested from the community chest. An agreement has been made with Swavesey Village College that if this application is successful, the shortfall will be shared 50-50. The parish council have already provided financial support towards it's around £1 million build cost of a 3G pitch, as well as also funding for pitch maintenance and repairs for the Swavesey Green, and that's the club's main grass home pitch. Councillor Swellington, you are in support. I welcome any comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Just I'll ask a question if I may. Councillor Ellington may know this as well or not. You mentioned the parish council contributed towards the 3G, and then you mentioned the phrase 1 million. Was this a 3G pitch which was provided by the Football Association with the main funding, or did Swavesey Parish Council fork out £1 million?
Sorry. I believe it was I think it was a group of different people that were inputting into this £1 million fund, the football club and the parish council, and I'm not sure where the other grant funds have come from.
I think I can
tell you.
Yeah. You know.
We, the parish were very fortunate in receiving the field that is being turned into this patch, into this new football venue, from a man who sold the rest of his garden for 35 houses to be built. So he gave us the field. We are now spending S106 money to create that into a number of different sort of activities, football and gym and netball and everything else. And so the money is being accrued from a variety of sources, and the parish council are also taking out a loan to support it. And the village college, because it's next door to the village college, very handy. They're giving us a car park and also going to be making use of it in the future.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, colleagues, questions? I've asked mine. How are we going with this? I mean, this is a really important thing. It's a club base as well, isn't it? So, Councillor Handley.
I'm supportive of this. I'm always been a footballer, always been a sportsman, and anything we can do, I think, just to improve sporting facilities in our villages is a good thing.
I'm not looking at any dissent here, so I'm assuming this is an approval, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Emma, next one, please.
Okay, page 40, we have Gamlingay Schools Out Club. So this opens for 1 week in August. This year, 140 children are registered to join. And they have been granted permission by the Cam Academy Trust to use the village primary school for a small fee. And children can take part in craft, cookery sessions, and there's a good range of toys and sports equipment. The fee is £5 per child, and that's for a 2.5 hour session. You've got a morning session and an afternoon session, and some children can attend the whole day, which would include lunch as well. And this year, they are trialling a new maximum head count of 120 children per session. And this means that they would need to create an additional area of play that can be housed under a gazebo. Total costs for a pop-up commercial gazebo, including sidewalls, is £1,103.93, and £500 has been requested from the community chest. The remaining balance will be funded from the club's reserves. We have Councillor Bridget Smith in support. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Comments, colleagues? Councillor Sanford.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, August is almost over for this year. Is this for application for funding for next year, or are they backfilling money that's been borrowed or acquired from somewhere else?
This is for this year. I think the timings, the application was received the beginning before the holidays, but because of the Grants Advisory Committee, the fact that it has to be reviewed and published in advance, it just so happens that this is the earliest it could come to committee.
Okay, so how will they be spending the money, because they will receive it after this year's event is over?
I think they have reserves, but they want to keep the costs as low as possible, so this would obviously help them in, going forwards as well.
Okay, thank you.
I suppose that's the consolation, is that even if they do get to the back end of August, by the time, if this is approved today, then they'll know this week, early next. And then the money will catch up with them eventually. But even if they did, if they've already purchased, I suppose we need to just check with John on this, I suppose, but if they've already purchased and done what they've done from their own reserves to get ahead, and they're making the application, is this okay to go through, John? I mean, I'm to be honest, I'm quite supportive of this, because these clubs do a heck of a lot of good and what have you. So if it is something they've fought out for and they were going to do it anyway, it's just the timings of this committee have been against them. Do you have any objection that this gets approved? And it's essentially going to be backfilling their budget, isn't it? So, John?
I don't mind if they've actually spent the money, but can we just check that the event actually went ahead? If they didn't get the money, we're all assuming that they funded it out of their own reserves, and then we can obviously give them this money to replenish those reserves. But can we just double check that actually it went ahead as planned, even though they didn't have the money? Because if they didn't have the money, it could be that they made, they changed it, or they didn't do it, or they downsized. So we just need to check exactly what they did do. But if they did do as they said they were going to do, then I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, so based on that from John, I think we're approved pending. Yeah. Leave it to officer decision if they follow the criteria, so to speak, to give them money. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. On to page 41, Abington Village Institutes. This is a community hub and a village facility that's well used. It offers a community cafe 3 times a week, has private bookings and events. And at the rear of the building, there's an area of raised decking, which forms part of the emergency exit. And the timber substructure, which supports the decking, is starting to rot. And what they'd like to do is replace it with structural recycled plastic. The surface of the decking was also, I'm not sure exactly when, but in the last few years, it's been replaced with this same material. which obviously influenced their decision to use the same material because they're very pleased with how strong it is and how it's performed so far. Total project costs for materials and labour are 12,800, and £2,000 has been requested from the community chest. And you can see the breakdown of how they're going to achieve this. Both Great and Little Abington parish councils have been asked to support the project, but a decision is pending on this. We have both Councillor John and Henry Batchelor in support. Thank you.
Councillor Hinton?
I just wondered whether the parish councils had given their support and were supporting it in any way. I was trying to see who owns this particular institution. It's the village hall, but is it owned by the parish council or is it an independent trust?
I believe they own it or have a long-term lease of the venue. That's what they've said on the application.
But did the parish councils indicate they would support it? It says a decision is awaited.
I think that's for the funding aspect of it. I think they are in support, but like a lot of these things, I think they obviously have to go to committee. So I can by all means sort of chase this again. Okay.
Just to be clear then, so Sue's asked for who owns the building. It says here the landowners own or have a long-term lease on the venue. So that's the institute, yeah, they're talking about, have a long-term lease, or they either own it, or perhaps we could just clarify that. I think that's the other one. Okay. What would you like to do about this? I mean, this is quite a Councillor Hanley.
I don't know if this suggestion is going to be in order or not, but we could say yes, subject to financial support from the parish councils, because honestly, I think they should be. I mean, they should be supporting it financially, have the means to raise money through the precept, and they should be doing it. And they should have a long-term plan. If something's falling into disrepair, they should be putting money aside to put it right.
Totally agree. Councillor Hanrash?
I agree with Bill, what Councillor Henley said.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, on that basis then, I'm looking around the room, I'm looking for approval. So, yeah? Yep. I think here then, we're going to look at it as Bill and Sue both said, with regards to the parish council and the funding from them. I'm quite happy to leave this with officers. I would hope that there would be a significant funding from parishes, or another donor, if you like, somewhere else. Otherwise, they're never going to get this done. They're less than 20% of the total figure from the £2 grand from us. So, and the other side of this is emergency access, isn't it? You said. Part of me, in my previous life, is screaming, why do you have a combustible material on a fire exit? Right, so in actual fact, I'm going to pull rank, and I'm going to say that I would like to defer this, actually, and I'm asking Emma if she would be kind enough to go back and ask the Institute, the Abington Village Institute, to make it very clear that if this is a fire exit, have they had permission to use a combustible material on a fire exit, and what is the rear of that building where this comes out, or the flank wall that this exit comes out of, what is it made of? Right? Because if it is, again, a village hall made of combustible material, you're adding petrol to the fire. So
I absolutely agree with you, Chair, and support that idea.
Joe, can I add? Could Emma also check on what sort of lease the institute has? Does it have a repairing lease? In which case, yeah, it should be making sure that the fire exit is kept up to scratch. But if it isn't, then it is down to the parish council, and it's not for us to be subsidising the parish council. So we need to find out what sort of lease they've got. I'm not quite happy with this, I have to say.
Yeah, I think that's gradually come out of the conversations here, John. I think totally agree. So if you've got all that there, Emma, yeah. I think defer at the moment, and they can always come back if they've got all the information, it goes in line, but at the moment, I hope that'd be a no smoking area as well.
Could I just add that we need to see, a fairly substantial contribution from the parish council. I mean, you just want, 20 quid's not going to be enough. You need a fairly substantial contribution from them to persuade me.
Okay, so we're all agreed on that one. Defer that one, yeah? Thanks. Over to you, Emma.
Okay, page 43, we have the first Combatant Scout group. This has 66 members and attracts young people from Combatant and the surrounding villages. Talking about fires, there was an accidental fire on the school grounds where the Scouts hut and the equipment storage facility is located. And the main Scouts building is, although it's still intact, the steel storage container that stores the majority of the equipment has been damaged beyond repair, along with all the contents. So, although the contents and the container were insured, the increases to the prices over the last year have meant that there will be a £10,000 shortfall in funds to replace it, and this will be more than they will be able to cover themselves. Total costs for a used 20-foot container, including delivery, the internal fittings that are needed, etc. This is in excess of £4,000. Community chest grant funding of £2,000 has been requested. The Parish Council have been contacted and the request for £500 made, but they are awaiting their reply. Parents of the group and the wider community have been supportive financially, and a Just Giving page has also raised £3,700, which will go towards the total project costs. Other grants are also being applied for. And we have support from Councillor Lisa Redrup and Councillor Ariel Com. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, this is a real shame, isn't it? It's just pure accidental fire. Right. Very few of those, I'm afraid, given my past employer. So, I know that it's going to be very difficult for you, my colleagues, to believe this, but I was once a little in-shorts cub and a longer trousers scout. So, whilst I don't need to declare an interest on that, I'm very, very supportive of this whole institution, if you like. They do such a lot of good work, and it is such a shame. And this is a theme, actually, because Melbourne lost their scout hut with an accidental fire which completely destroyed it and everything in it. So I use the word inverted commas, accidental. So my own opinion is I'm very much in support of this. I don't know if anyone else has got. Councillor Sanford?
It's generally supportive. I'm just wondering if the school is happy to have a shipping container dropped in their premises. They're not exactly pretty. This is going to be on school grounds, I understand.
Yes, it will be, but they had a container before for storage, and they have said that they're supportive.
Ah, okay.
This is to replace the one that was damaged. I mean, I have to say, the amount of the accidental fire next to it has come through quarter-inch steel plate and has incinerated everything inside. It's a conductive fire inside.
It was that intense a fire.
It was that intense and an accidental fire.
If they're replacing like with like, that's fine.
Okay, lovely. Councillor Emerson.
We're still waiting for Parish Council to agree to support, and I think, again, we need to see that the Parish Council are on board and support these things, I think.
Councillor Handley.
Councillor Ainton's pretty much said what I was going to say. I'm just a little bit nervous there. The project cost is, they're a bit vague, it's just over 3,000, and they're asking for 2,000. So they're asking us for the vast majority of the sum to do this. And the parish council haven't yet committed. So although I feel sympathy and you know, I want this to happen. I'm just wondering whether or not they've just thought, oh, district council will do it. Let's talk to them. You know, I think maybe they need to cast the net a bit wider.
Yeah. They have got the Just Giving. I mean, that's raised 3,007, which actually did surprise me as it goes. So obviously they'll probably carry on with that, I would imagine. As I say, I don't have a problem with the 2,000 unless I'm overruled by John, but perhaps we could reiterate, if we were minded to support, that we could reiterate the importance of parish council supporting all this, and that there is the Cambridge Community Foundation website which lists God knows how many different areas for funding schemes and what have you, that you can get small amounts for. You know, they only need to do £400 or £500, isn't it? They're more or less there, aren't they? So, you know, as you say, you're right to say that.
Could I think this is the point where I'd really quite like to hear what John Williams thinks of this, to be honest.
Over to you, John.
Yeah, I think where it's a community facility, and you know, we would expect the parish council to, you know, contribute because it is a facility for the whole community. But in this particular case, I'm not so sure that we should be insisting that the parish council contribute. It's not on parish council land. Parish council doesn't have any direct involvement with, you know, it's not like the previous one with the village hall. So I don't know. I'm inclined not. I mean, it would be good to see the parish council contribute, but I don't think it's you know, absolutely necessary that they do. But certainly, I would like to see them looking for other ways of, you know, other sources of grants, not just us. But I assume that will be when they come to replace the equipment, that they will not be. I think maybe we should make it clear to them that, you know, our funding is for the container, but don't come back to us for more funding for the equipment. We expect them to find other sources for that. But as far as the parish council is concerned, I don't think we can apply every case that we expect the parish council to contribute. Otherwise, I think we would find it really difficult to give any grants away, to be honest, because most parish councils do not support you know, organisations such as the Scouts. That's my view anyway. I'm quite happy with this as it stands, to be honest with you. I don't have a problem with this.
Okay, John, and I'd just like to reiterate how much of a nice gentleman that John is as the lead member for finance, because I told you he was a nice man, right? And he was quite happy to give it away. So on that basis, that before I insult John anymore, I think we're in agreement there. All the bits and pieces that have been said, Emma, yeah, it's an approval, yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Page 45, we have Littleton Congregational Church. So as well as a place of worship, it is used by around 25 people a week, and that's for village activities, events such as musical and choral concerts, coffee mornings, and it's used by village groups and for meetings, for example, parish council meetings. They've applied to us in relation to their existing 40-year-old boiler, which is noisy and it's got a crack in the flue. So replacing the boiler with an external combi boiler has been advised, and this will not only be more efficient, but it will provide hot water to the kitchen and toilet area. It will also make the hall more attractive to anybody wanting to use it. They've looked into the green alternatives. That was one of my first questions when I contacted them. And they said that greener alternatives would be around £10,000 or between £10,000 and £18,000. But they've been advised that the combi boiler is the best way to go. Total project costs are £7,246 and £2,000 has been requested from the community chest. This £2,000 this would also include a side security gate to sort of house the boiler outside. Redecorating costs will be met by the church. They've secured a grant of £1,750 from the Benefact Trust. £524 will be provided by the church, and they will need to apply for further grants to cover the £2,972 shortfall. The parish council are unable to make a contribution, but I believe that's part of the sort of guidance that parish councils aren't able to provide funding to sort of churches. We have support from Councillor Susan van der Ven. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Right, well, we've had some that have given us consternation and concern, and this one, for me, comes to the top of the pile, sadly. But to contrast that comment, unlike a lot of other applications we have, this one is a warts and all. They have been monumentally straight and open about what they want to do and why they want to do it, and the hope for the future, etc., etc. So, unless you have anything very strong to say, colleagues, I'm going to go straight to John, I think, because this one has worried me ever since I first clapped eyes on it. So, John, could we have your guidance on this before we go much further and ask any questions of Emma, please?
I was hoping to get your guidance actually, because like you, I'm not happy about this. I have to say, I'm not happy that we should be replacing gas with gas. I mean, Emma, did they look at an electric alternative? I mean, not a green boiler, but just getting a boiler that is an electric one rather than a gas one.
I believe it's an oil boiler.
Oh, it's oil, is it? Sorry, yeah.
But I did say to them, I said, have you considered infrared heating? Because obviously that's the sort of technology that would heat the person if it's not used. They said that they'd looked into that, and I think it just wasn't suitable for their needs. So I did sort of raise it, but.
Okay. Well, I'm inclined not to agree to this, I'm afraid, because it doesn't fit our agenda. It doesn't fit the council's policy of green to our core. I can't see why they can't find an alternative to oil, or indeed, gas. I assume it's oil because they don't have a gas supply. I think they should be looking at, ways of heating using electricity, which then, as the country comes off of fossil fuels, in due course, it will be a green source of energy. So, yeah, as I say, I was hoping to hear your, committee to persuade me otherwise, but I'm not quite happy with this.
Thanks, John. Right, we've got a couple of speakers now, so you might find out whether you're being agreed with or not. Bill Hanley.
It's what I wouldn't have said it as eloquently, of course, but it's pretty much the way I feel. There must be a better way.
Councillor Sanford.
Yep, I also agree with Councillor Williams. Yes, replacement oil boiler will be cheaper up front, but given the unpredictable costs of oil, as we've all seen in the last couple of years, it seems very short-sighted that maybe they should dig a bit deeper and look at the green alternatives, which will be hopefully cheaper to run in the long run. So I would tend to send this back to them and say, please think again.
Thank you. Colleague, Councillor Hanraj or Ellington? Councillor Ellington?
Yes, I was more concerned, I have to admit, about it being a church and whether we are happy to actually support money into a church. That was where my focus was, because there are organisations that manage churches, if you see what I mean, and you can get grants from other sources. So I had a few questions around that, but I think the general feeling is no.
They have been successful with a £1,750 from the Benefact Trust, which is formerly the All Churches Trust. So they have got that, and they've got 524 provided by the church itself. I'm assuming that must be from its own collection of funds and what have you. Okay, Councillor Hamraj.
I agree with both John Williams and Councillor Ellington.
Okay, right. Well, it's just the way the cookie crumbles, I think. So I'd just like to say I would like to congratulate them on a very honest and detailed application. But I think really the decision is that we sadly don't feel able to support, and that we would recommend they perhaps look at the options that have been talked about here now with the electrical side and what have you, rather than fossil fuel itself per se. Okay, thanks, Emma. Next one on, please.
Thank you. Page 47, Huntingdon Hockey Club. They currently have 50 members, most of which live in Northstowe. Since 2021, the club has been based in Northstowe, and they rent the Astro pitch at the secondary college for weekly training and home matches. They've said that each new wave of the housing developments has increased the numbers wishing to join the club, and that the new and returning players, they would need to build match experience. So that what they've done is they've added a development squad, and as part of this, they would need new equipment. Total cost for this is £1,981.75, all of which has been requested from the community chest. It's a long list of equipment there that you can see. We have support from Councillor Thomas Bygott, and just more recently we've received support from Councillor Natalie Warren-Green as well. So just to note that one, that's come through. I welcome your comments, thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Right, so this is for the full amount. And in the preamble it says about the parish council support, and they haven't asked the parish council. Now I know Northstowe is a very new place, but I'm sure they've got some money lying around somewhere. Colleagues, anyone got any questions, points they'd like to make? Henley?
Well, as you know, my responsibility for helping to build the community at Northstowe, so I'd rather hear from my colleagues first before I speak.
Anybody else? Councillor Sanford.
Yeah, I don't think we should fund the full amount, given it's a Huntingdon Hockey Club. Okay, the name, but the members seem to come from all over, not just our district, so maybe a part funding would be appropriate.
Thanks, I'm not sure we can do that. I think we have to, it's either the amount or nothing, isn't it? Yeah. Anybody else got any comments?
I believe Northstowe needs support in activity in every way we can possibly give it. At the moment it's a group of houses, it's not a community, and the more we can make it into a community or help to make it into a community, the better in my view. I must admit, I look Huntingdon, what's that got to do with it? But I feel that there are good grounds for trying to help them maintain some activity and some community involvement in providing activity. So, on the whole, I would support it.
Thank you. I think what's noticeable in this application is the complete and utter lack of going anywhere else for funding. I haven't even mentioned it. Sure. I just thought I'd better check and make sure. I can't see anything at MO unless you know anything else. So this is one of the comments that we made earlier about, oh, let's just go to South Cambs. And I agree with you, Sue, I really do. It is a new community and it does need to be supported as best we can. But by the same token, these people obviously know how to get funding because they've been a long-established club. So why would they not try somewhere else as well? So are we just the easy option? But that's my thought. And now that Councillor Hanley, with the responsibility for the new and emerging communities and what have you, wanted to hear from us, he's now heard. Over to you, Bill.
Oh. I'm struggling with it because I agree with Councillor Ellington that we should be doing everything we can to support North Stowe, and my feeling is that on this occasion we probably should. I think if we were a bit further down the line with North Stowe, we might be asking more questions, but at the moment they are they're still pioneers. I mean, they're building their community, and I think we should give every bit of good support we can. And at the end of the day, what are they asking for? 1,900 and something. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it's going to give good benefit to the people of North Stowe, I would be supportive, certainly. I wish it wasn't headlined Huntingdon Hockey Club, though.
I've had a thought. See if this floats your boat. If we were, ultimately it's down to John whether or not he thinks it's a great idea, but before we go to John, if, let's for argument's sake, if John thought this was okay to fund, how about that we write a proviso on this funding, expressing our disappointment that we were the only people they decided to make an application to for the full amount, that we would expect that within, say, the next month, 6 weeks, we would expect to see an application to somebody else to see how that went. If they were unsuccessful, we will fund them, but on this and one only occasion, because this is their duty to look in elsewhere. You can't just go, we'll go to that one because they're an easy touch, right? So that's my thoughts. I'm perhaps describing my thoughts clumsily, but you get my drift, perhaps what we're saying here. Emma can write it much better than I'm saying it. So, should we, Councillor Haraj, you want to come and say something, yeah?
I think anything that gets the young people out doing sport, I support them. I wonder, I mean, I never played hockey, but do the parents contribute anything to the sports equipment?
Well, the adults get charged 110 a season. Don't know if you said anything about children. Did it say anything about children somewhere in your documentation, Emma?
They're looking, it says in the application, to build closer working relationships with secondary schools in the area in order to welcome younger players. So as far as I can see from this, not at the moment, but they're looking to do that.
So this looks like it's adults, not children. Over 18s, essentially. So, okay. Does that answer your point?
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, so I think all in all we'll go to John now to see what his thoughts are. John?
Thanks, Joe. When Emma sent me the papers for the meeting, I jokingly said to her, "Oh, isn't it a shame that they don't have North Stowe in their title because they're based in North Stowe and most of their members seem to come from North Stowe, and yet it looks like they're in Huntingdon, not even in South Cambs." Listening to everyone, and I take on board what Bill says, I think we should, as part of giving this grant, insist that they include Northstowe in their name. And if they don't include Northstowe in their name, then we don't give them the money. So, you know, I fully understand where Bill's coming from, and the local politics of this, I suspect, is the reason why they just came to us. And I suspect there's a bit of a trap here, actually, if we turn this down. So I think we should support it, but on the condition that they include Northstowe in their name. That's my view.
Thank you, John. Councillor Ellington.
I suspect that they haven't changed the name because they're either registered somewhere as Huntingdon Club, or their bank account is called Huntingdon. And I think we may all know how very difficult it is to change your bank account name and signatories. It can take you 12 months or more, believe me.
Sorry, Sue, but that's they can trade as Northstowe and District or something, hockey club. I don't, they need to have, if they're based in Northstowe and South Cambs is giving them money, then there needs to be some recognition in their name that they are based in Northstowe and South Cambs, not in Huntingdonshire, who are not giving them anything. So, they can still, under the Charities Commission or whatever, still be known as Huntingdon, but for all intents and purposes, their trading name or brand name could be Northstowe. So I'm pretty annoyed actually that they aren't recognising the fact that they are they've been based in Northstowe some time, from Emma's report. So I don't see that any reason why they can't include Northstowe in their name and recognise the fact that they are serving the community of Northstowe and that they're being funded by South Cambs.
Thanks, John. I'll bear that out actually, because you'll be familiar with the mobile warden schemes we discussed, or you discussed earlier. Melbourne mobile warden scheme took over the running of the Harston scheme, and that was very different names, and they were Harston and District and something or other. Melbourne is now still retained as MMWS because of its bank and charitable status, but we've just changed the publicity, if you like, and the logo's changed and everything. So it's now going to be Melbourne and District Warden, so it kind of covers that. So it's only a slight change, but you can do it as long as you leave the original who you actually are intact, so to speak. So, okay, anybody else got any comments, Bill?
So I think, yeah, I agree with John. Actually, we should follow his lead on this, and frankly, I think in the fullness of time, Northstowe is going to be, and not too far in the future, it's going to be a big enough place to warrant having its own hockey club. So why not say, let's have a Northstowe hockey club now, based on the money that we support, and encourage them to come back to us.
Right, so this is going to be some very carefully worded letter from Emma. So we've heard what John said, and obviously the Huntingdon / Northstowe Hockey Club can listen to this recording and hear what's been said as well. So it might be perhaps worth mentioning that this is a recording of this whole. They can listen to this at the timestamp. I'm sure Aaron can give you the timestamp. So our decision is to approve the application with the caveat that seeing that the Huntingdon Hockey Club is now based in Northstowe, they do not appear to be funded because they haven't said so in their documentation from anywhere else. And it would appear that most of their clientele come from Northstowe, that we would, I'm going to be diplomatic, hope and expect perhaps that their trading name could be perhaps changed to the Northstowe and Huntingdon Hockey Club. That way they keep both. There's a 50-50. You go some, we'll go some. And on that basis, then we would then give them the £1,981.75p. But I think before we give them the actual money, they need to come back and say they're going to do that. Yeah. And I suppose we have to look around the room, and probably John wants to chirp in here if he wants, but if they refuse point blank, then I would argue that we perhaps authorise officers to say, in that case, then hard luck. Go and find £1,981.75p from somewhere else.
I agree with you, Jose. I agree with you, Jose. I think it's a small thing we will ask them to do, and that is to put Northstowe on the map. You know, help us put Northstowe on the map by including Northstowe in their name in return for the grant.
Natural fact, that one liner there, that phrase could go in that letter, if that's okay, Emma, what John just said. Yeah, put them on the map, so to speak, in the hockey world. Okay, thanks. Yeah, go for it.
I think probably Emma, ask Emma to maybe speak with Claire Gibbons and the people, the communities team at Northstowe, and just ask them to speak with the people who play hockey in Northstowe. Perhaps asking whether or not they feel they'd like to set up their own club, or be the people that run it. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm perhaps throwing a spanner in the works, but I do think that yes, I think that Northstowe should have its own hockey club. I mean, I agree with what John and what you're saying, Jose. Yeah.
You got a point, but actually, you know, if this club were already based in Northstowe, and most of their clientele, if not all of them, are Northstowe people, or at least the surrounding area there, it kind of makes sense actually for the people themselves, the people who use the club and belong to it, subscribe to it, to say, actually, it makes a lot of sense what's been asked of us. It is a bigger club, it's covering a bigger area, so then just let the name reflect. You can keep the banks and all the rest of it as it was.
I think what we're seeing here is Huntingdon Club using a facility in Northstowe, and because it's in Northstowe, you've got quite a lot of people from Northstowe using, playing. It's a short step to say, well, look, it's a Northstowe club. If Huntingdon people want to join us, great. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty. I think that's where we are.
I think also it could be that there is actually a Northstowe club. I mean, you know, we could be a situation here where there are actually two clubs, Northstowe and Huntingdon, and we need to understand that if there are two clubs, then why are we giving money to Huntingdon, to a club that's aligned with Huntingdon and not the club that's aligned with Northstowe? So it'd be useful to find that out. The other thing I've thought about is there, I don't know if you know, Bill, you probably don't have to ask our planning colleagues, but is there any 106 money that that these people can access via the town council? Because presumably the town council may well have got 106 money for sporting activities. So you know, we ought to also be saying to this club, if there is money, you know, you should be going to, you know, we'll give you this money, but in future, go to the town council because they have 106 money from the developers for developing sport. If they have, I'm not so sure because the 106 situation for Northstowe has been so messed up that they probably don't have any 106 money for sport development, but, you know, it'd be useful to know.
Maybe we should encourage them to go and speak to L&Q and say, hey, what about helping us in a small way, a modest way, because I think they should.
Okay, so for the fear of creating the Celtic and Rangers ancient history of conflict, for the Northstowe and the Huntingdon Hockey Club League, Hockey Wars, I think we've got enough information. We've said what we said. We've come to the decision. That's what we feel. With the aforementioned, with the bits from John and ourselves and what have you, Emma. Good luck with the letter. Thank you very much for helping us with this. And I think that's where we're going to be. Yeah, it's a yay, as long as there's a few conditions attached to the yay. Okay, lovely. Thanks. Over to you with the Milton then.
Okay, so we have Milton Outdoor Bowls Club. They began in 2000 and currently benefits 50 elderly members, each paying an annual subscription of £40. They've said that the present equipment at the club is more than 15 years old, very worn out, and it's proving very difficult for the elderly members to operate. So the application is for 8 new ball gatherers, which you've probably seen in previous applications that we've had from other bowls clubs. Total costs are £520, and all is being requested from the community chest. We have support from Councillor Anna Bradnam, Councillor Judith Rippeth, and Councillor Paul Bearpark that has come through. Also, the Chair of the Parish Council, Hazel Smith, is fully supportive as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Right, this kind of goes back to where we had our colleague officer, Ben Scott, present with regards to those grants for active and what have you, with the various schemes for keeping people active. And if you look on the page 49, the average age is 75, which fits in with the numbers for 2041 that Jessica was talking about, with the oldest being 82. So, hey, this kind of fits just about every tick in the box you could think of. Councillor Hanley.
I'm fully supportive. It's a fairly modest sum, but a modest sum that could make a huge difference. So, yeah, I'm fully supportive.
Well, I'm looking around the room. I can't see anybody shaking their head or anything like that. So I think I'm taking that as a support for everybody. Yep, thanks. Over to you, Emma.
Thank you. So we have a biodiversity application on page 50. This is Marvel Green Management Company. So Marvel Green is a collection of 18 houses which are set back from Meldreth High Street. Homeowners are members of the Marvel Green Management Company and each own a share of the freehold of a wooded green area. This is a piece of land just behind their houses. Each homeowner pays a service charge of around £350 annually, and they've come up with some fantastic plans for the Marvel Green Wildlife Corridor projects. So both the residents and South Cambs District Council, the planning department, are keen to preserve this land and enhance it as a natural wildlife environment. Residents have already come to an agreement on a vision, as I've just said. This vision includes planting native hedges and trees, aquatic plants, and wildflower meadow. And you can see there's a nice plan there as part of the application. Some of the plans are also to link both the arts and science. So they want to use it as a prototype for new residential biodiversity enhancing developments. They also want to involve children and adults in the creation of nature-inspired arts. So they would like to open it up to the public as a garden on an annual basis. So the total project costs towards the rewilding of the green are £2,000, all of which have been requested from the community chest. They've said that with 8 people working full days, this part of the project could be done in one weekend to avoid labour costs. I've been in discussions with Lee Hillam, the Principal Operations Manager, and he said that the watercourse team and their equipment has also been offered to assist with this project. I think that's going to be next springtime. And then we have support from yourself, Councillor Hales, and Councillor Sally Ann Hart. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Do you mind if so I'm very familiar with this, if you look at that plan, that pond isn't going to be put in, it already exists. It's a settling pond for the surface water from the whole site. It's absolutely enormous. And one comment from the parish council, local parish council, was, I don't think that was a very good idea putting that pond in there. Well, it's there for a reason. So that's why. So that's going to be, it's a bit raw looking at the moment, as you'd imagine. So that's going to be redeveloped up to make it look much more pretty and what have you, as with all the other stuff. So the left-hand side of that plan is where the watercourse is, as you can see. Lee Hillam is the officer that came out, to people familiar with Lee. He offered the services of his team, as Emma has already said, as it's a part of the adopted water courses or protected water courses. I can't remember which one it was now, but he was very keen to assist in a proper managed process, not just ripping it out and making it all look huge and wide. It's going to be done very carefully. The whole of the development are involved in this. Where it says about the 8 people, there is a core of people, but the entire development come out. The children come out and they help. I've seen photographs and what have you, and bits and pieces of people doing this. That's actually lovely. South Cams also have an interest anyway, because we have some of our housing on site. The social housing mainly is ours. I think it's not all of ours, but it's mainly ours. There's some buy to part ownership, I think, as well. But they're generally speaking, all the other stuff is ours. So there's a buying from everything. I think that's why Lee is also part and parcel of this process. So, as I say, for me, I think this is brilliant. I mean, they are driven, these people. This space was offered to the Parish Council at the point of 106 for open spaces, and the Parish Council declined to take it. They didn't feel they wanted to be responsible for it, so it was set up, if you like, as a management, like a management company, resident group, if you like. And it's being driven very, very powerfully by, I think, those 8 people. But there's about 3 or 4 people that are really very keen. I think the lead on the application is an architect, so he knows exactly where he's going to come from. So, the floor's yours. Councillor Hanley. Excuse me.
What part of Marvel Green Management Company playing in all this?
That's essentially the resident group.
That is actually the resident group. Okay, all right. So not okay. Yeah.
Councillor Sanford.
Yeah, shed more light on that, Bill. We have these nebulous management companies springing up all over the district. The estate I live on, I'm actually one of the directors of the management company. In theory, we maintain the area and disperse the funds. A lot of it's actually subcontracted, but I assume the directors of Marvel Green Management Company are the residents, and they will take responsibility not just for getting the work done, but for maintaining the area going forward. It's not going to be a financial burden on SDCC going forward. After, obviously there's going to be maintenance, weeding, trimming, whatever, to be done every year, and we're not committing the council to taking that on board, I assume. I guess that's a question for Emma.
I'm probably better off answering it. I think, if you don't mind, that's a no. It's not going to be an onward cost to South Cam. I'm sure that there'll be, like anybody else, there'll be availability to come back and ask for help with something rather than that's fine. But there is no on cost to SCDC. They are also going to attempt to make an application to the Parish Council. I don't know if that's in that application. I didn't see it per se, but they are looking to do that as well. So I think there's going to be further costs down the line for bits and pieces. The chairman of the Parish Council, Mildred Parish Council, has been on site with some colleagues and seen it. Recently, I think he was there on one of the days where half the community was there digging holes and taking stuff out of the ground and whatever in the weeds, and was very, very impressed. So hopefully that will shed some joy on there. They got a fair chunk of 106 money and continuous 106 money. Mildred as Melbourne do, and they kind of dish that out annually. So there's another route for them there as well, going into the future. But generally speaking, I think this is something pretty good. Thanks. Councillor Ellington.
I've had experience where Lee Hillam is extremely good, at bringing his digger back and cleaning out ponds and things, because it's part of his duty as the awarded watercourse. And that really means that the pond doesn't get to be a sludgy mess. It becomes a really live, interesting place for wildlife.
Councillor
Just
Hanlon.
one other question. I think I know the answer to it, but can you assure me that there are no members of the Marvel Green Management Company board that are being remunerated?
No, I can't. I don't believe so. There wasn't mentioned when we had quite a lengthy discussion. That's a good point.
I think I'd be less inclined if people are actually taking some kind of payment for doing what they do. I would be less inclined to support it. And maybe that's a question we should ask before we make a decision.
Totally agree. So, Emma, did you want to speak, Pete? Sorry. Did you put your hand up? Sorry.
I was going to say it's most unusual for these management companies to actually pay their directors. We do it for love, not money.
I think it's worth just checking. So, I think it's a very fair question. So, if we're minded to approve, we approve on the proviso that the answers that come back. Can we see a management structure of the Marble Green Management Group, where these people are situated, what involvement they have with the scheme itself, or the management group, and are any of those people funded by this scheme? And if they are, how much?
Yeah, I mean, we may well decide to fund it in any case, but I think we need to have that information before we take that decision. That's my view.
I totally agree with you, but I think if we get that information there, so we'll leave that with Emma. If it comes back that they are, I would say at that point we don't automatically fund, but if we could ask Emma to go back via John to, if you like, make that final decision. Bloody hell, made me jump. Make that final decision, and then we can be informed perhaps as an update at the next meeting, if that's okay with you, Emma. Are you okay with that, John?
Yeah, Joseph, one thing I was going to ask you, because obviously you know a lot about this, is presumably most management companies have a service charge, which I mean, Peter will know about this, which residents pay for the maintenance, for the grounds maintenance.
Yes, there is.
And I was just wondering how much of this service charge, if any, is going to be used for this project. Are the residents themselves contributing towards this through their service charge, or not?
The service charge is £350 annually, it says here. And SCDC also pays a service charge to the management company for the affordable rent properties. So I think in that letter...
So is that service charge just for the maintenance, or would it cover something like this?
Right, so the ownership and maintenance of the common area are regulated by a covenant which is administered by the management company. The sale of any given property transfers the share of ownership to the new owner. Each homeowner pays a service charge of around £350 annually, and as I said, SCDC pay a service charge for the affordable rent properties. So I think, I agree with you, John, in the letter that Emma is going to kindly write to the Marble Green Management Company, asking information that we've already asked, we should also include that the 350 that is collected, the service charges, is that also going to be used in this process, or are South Cams totally funding this process on its own? I think it would be prudent to say that we'll defer. In actual fact, it's only next month, isn't it, that we're going to come back again, so we could get this information for next month. Yeah? Do you reckon? Emma? Do you think? Yeah, we can get the information. So so I think we'll defer the decision until next month, pending that information coming back. I think that way we don't confuse the issue. Yeah, it's not going to do much now anyway till the spring, so it's irrelevant.
No.
Really. So, you happy with that, John?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's just that I want to understand exactly how the residents are involved with this.
Yeah.
And I know obviously they're putting a lot of their own time and effort into it from what you
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
but also they are paying the management company.
Yeah.
And it's the management company using this money towards this scheme. That's all I want to know.
Okay, brilliant. Well, Emma's going to
Okay.
lock that information. We'll get it for next month with a bit of luck. Okay, thanks, Emma, on that one. And we'll go to the next one then. Thanks.
Okay, this is the final application. This is a cost of living application on page 52 from Camborne Town Football Club. They have 750 members, so I think it's one of the biggest football clubs in the district. They'd like to start a community football kit exchange where people can donate and collect good quality items of football kits for reuse. All items are free, which means that no one should ever feel excluded from playing football. And it's also open to people or clubs outside Camborne, which is good to note. Any excess or uncollected donations will be donated to the CAMS FA Sports Gen scheme or the Salvation Army, who have a scheme that makes new yarn from old textiles, so nothing goes to waste as such. Total estimated costs are £1,143.96, all of which has been requested from the community chest. The town council already make financial contributions to the football club, just to be aware. And we have support from all three local district councillors. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Colleagues, comments? I mean, the obvious question is, are the parish council doing anything? Yes, he said so, so that's fine. Councillor Harash.
I think it's an excellent project. I'm just thinking, do you know what magic mirrors are?
Yes, I do. I look in one every morning and it says, dear Jose, you are...
No.
I have no idea.
I must admit, I don't know what a magic mirror is either. Sorry.
So it's been planned well, that much I'll say.
Yes, please.
So I've just Googled what a magic mirror is, and apparently it's the latest photo booth concept. It's in the style of a large touchscreen mirror, and you can see the photo that you're creating for yourself in the reflection in the mirror.
Wow.
Why would you
They
want
do-
one of those?
Well, do they do a wide-angle lens? I was going to say for me.
But I assume it's so they can see themselves in their new kit that they're trying and send that on to anybody else they may wish to share that photo with.
I just make a point that that's only 45 quid that they're asking for, so it's not going to break the bank really.
It's only a cheap mirror then.
Cheapskate.
Okay. Well, I'm very comfortable with this. I don't know about you guys. Yeah. Yeah. We're all comfortable. We're all comfortable with this, John. So hopefully you are.
Yeah. Okay.
Brilliant. Okay, that's a yes from us then, Emma. And I think that's the end. So, thank you to Emma for the bits and pieces of Mobile Warden and the community. Thanks to Ben for the other two that I can't remember the names of. Hang on, what have we got here? Long-term condition grants and the leisure centre grants. And obviously, thank you to you. And as always, to sign off, thank you, Aaron, for doing your bit there and coming in at short notice. But to sign off as normal, thank you so much to the now thousands of people that watch this grant committee meeting every month. I'm very grateful, as we all are, and we try our best and to give the money away wisely. And I'd just like to finish that last accolade with John as the most generous man in South Cambs, especially when it comes to the grants committee and our funding stream. So, yes, sycophants are us. Okay, so...
Don't overdo it, Joe.
Okay. Thank you very much from one and all, and that'll be the end of the meeting. Thanks.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks everyone.